Hi and welcome to Wealthy Living Radio Show. I'm Lisa Entwistle, your host and founder of Wealthy Living. Each fortnight, I have conversations with a variety of different professionals to discuss topics that cover physical, emotional and spiritual wellness. We discuss how our choices impact our work, relationships and health, and suggest ways for you to live a wealthy life. I help open-minded, big-hearted people connect to themselves, others and the world around them, guiding them to live a wealthy life, both personally and professionally. So today we're going to talk about dance for well-being. We've all heard of the popular phrase, dance as though nobody's watching. And that's because there's no doubt that dancing with abandon is most certainly a fabulous and powerful way to express joy. But there's a lot of deeper benefits of dance. And that's why I've invited dance movement and creative arts therapist, and of course we can't forget Bollywood teacher extraordinaire, Anjali. She's here to chat with me about dance and well-being. With over 20 years experience of teaching, performing, facilitating, choreography, and moving with people across 3 continents, the expressive arts are as essential to Anjali as eating, sleeping, and breathing. She is the founder and artistic director of Atma Dance Company that provides multicultural dance experiences. She's also the founder and director of Embracing Spirit and offers trauma-informed creative arts and dance movement therapy. In addition, she works as an art therapist and dance movement therapist in residential aged care settings, facilitates meditation and mindfulness sessions, and designs and delivers incursions as well as a wide variety of programs in primary and secondary schools. She's a counsellor with Her Space that offers long-term mental health support to women who have experienced sexual exploitation. Anjali is a firm believer in the power of dance and the arts to transcend all barriers and transform and empower individuals and communities. So as you can see, there are so many reasons just from this bio of why I've invited this incredible woman to join me to share some of her learnings and wisdom with us today. So welcome, Anjali.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks for inviting me. It's a real honor to be here chatting with you today.
I'm excited. It's such a great topic, and there is so much within it, both for the movement, for the way, for our body wisdom, looking at dance and dance expression and dance therapy. So let's get into it. And before we do talk about dance more specifically, I really want to know, can we just talk a little bit about the benefits of body wisdom in general? So maybe we can start by just even letting the listeners know, let's break down the words body wisdom a little bit. Like, what does that actually mean? We hear that phrase quite often, but I'm not sure that everybody really understands it.
Yes, absolutely. You definitely hear this phrase very often these days, connect with the wisdom of the body or body wisdom. And for me personally, it has to do with the intelligence that makes the body the perfect vessel that it is. So, for example, you don't have to tell your heart to pump blood throughout your body. It does that, from the moment it starts beating until the day you die. You don't have to teach your lungs how to breathe. There is a higher intelligence that does that for us. And it also extends into, when we talk about self-healing, that the human being, or the human body rather, has the capacity to heal itself. You get a scrape or a wound or a cut on your hand, and you don't have to tell that cut how to heal itself. It does it on its own. So in a way, it's sort of that natural, innate wisdom that exists in everyone's body that we all have access to, but we tend to, through conditioning and through the cultures that we live in, we tend to disconnect from that natural body wisdom. And babies kind of do it naturally, and they follow that body wisdom. Like they feel something in their belly, they cry, they're hungry, when they feeling heavy and tired, they want to sleep and they sleep. Whereas we have sort of learned how to ignore those natural signals and impulses that come from the body.
And I really agree with that, because I see it all the time over years working in the corporate setting, in corporate wellness and wellbeing, and then even with private clients, I see how often people are really stuck in their heads, and all their decisions come from their heads, and they're not even aware of what their body is telling them. And yes, there's the things that happen automatically on the physiological level, like you talked about, which may not be necessary always to notice for someone.
That's
some
right.
of those things, because they happen automatically. But those other messages that the body is giving us, that perhaps when we're not integrating our minds with our bodies and listening to what the messages of our bodies, and only listening to the messages of our thoughts, then we're not necessarily making fully informed decisions. So, we do see that, people do end up listening to their bodies when it's stopped whispering and started screaming.
When it starts yelling
So
at us.
yelling, I'm in pain, or, you've actually injured yourself. So you don't have a choice. Like if you've hurt your ankle, you might not be able to walk. So...
But see, again, it's interesting if you look at that example. So you hurt your ankle and you can't walk. What is your body telling you?
Just slow down?
Exactly. That's exactly right. So just even off the top of your head, if you stop to think and pause and go, all right, what is my body telling me? I've hurt myself, or I've fallen over, and there is a message. There's always a message in your pain. There's always a message in your tension and in sensations in the body. And that, again, coming back to that is what helps you to connect with the wisdom of your body. And, as you were saying earlier about your work in the with corporates and sort of other client groups, unfortunately, we live in a time where most of us are like disembodied heads floating around. People aren't actually in their bodies. And when you stop to ask someone, most of my offerings, whether they're classes or workshops or whatnot, I always just check in with people. What are you feeling in your body right now? It's as simple as that. Just pausing to notice what are the sensations. And in doing that, you actually come back into your body. It's not just... You're not just mind-oriented. You suddenly have this whole world of sensations, and you're back in your body. And embodied experience is another word that you hear a lot. And it's basically just that. It's being in your body, rather than your body being here and your mind being somewhere else.
Yeah, and I love that. I love the simplicity of that, because a lot of people can do that at any particular time, at any particular space, and they can just, as long as you then practice, I suppose, that mindfulness or presence or even just practice routine of saying to yourself, how does my body feel right now?
Exactly.
You could even... If that isn't something that would come natural to a person, you could start by just writing those words in a place that person sees all the time. So if they're in the corporate setting, they might have that across their screen or on a sticky note.
Sure. Even primary school kids get this. I asked 5-year-olds, what are you feeling in your body right now?
I think actually 5-year-olds are probably better at it.
Well, the challenge with 5-year-olds is getting them to sit still long enough to notice what's in their body.
So why do you think this is the case? Or is it just a cultural thing? Are there some cultures which generally are better at being in their bodies more regularly, or being not just necessarily just in their bodies, but having the integration between their bodies and their minds as a natural way of being, and some cultures which, like we've both said that we see, that people are predominantly disembodied and are working more just in their minds. Is it a cultural thing, or why do you think that this is happening?
Yeah, look, that's a good question. I do think there are certain cultures, and more traditional cultures, for example, do have an integration of movement practices in their day-to-day life. So, for example, I'm originally from India, And in Indian culture, we have lots of opportunities to move and dance individually and as a community. But I don't see a lot more integration of mind, body, spirit. So that's the second part of your question. And I think that universally, we are living in a time, post the Cartesian split. So there's a philosopher called Descartes who said, "I think, therefore I am." Right? And this idea that the mind and body are separate came into being. And unfortunately, over time, we overvalued the mind and undervalued the body. And so we're living, I believe that we are living the consequences of that train of thought, that mind and body are separate, that only thinking and cognitive decision-making is important and of value, and everything else is either irrational or non-rational. I prefer the word non-rational because it's non-logical. When we talk about body wisdom, your body may be telling you something that completely goes against what your mind is saying. In fact, that's how I came to Australia. My body was sending me these messages to come and do something that no one had ever heard of in my culture. And so if I went by what my mind was telling me at the time, I would still be in India doing what I was doing 20 years ago. But in listening to my body, it brought me to a more authentic space in my life, living a life that's more in alignment with who I am. So coming back to cultures, I think that certain cultures are lucky that they have those traditional dances to draw on. And that's one of the wonderful things about being in Melbourne in Australia, where there is a huge multicultural dance culture. So I think in answer to your question, I don't know if there's any culture that's integrating mind, body, and spirit better than the others. They just have more resources to draw on.
Great. So one of the things that you've just that you said there was that your body gave you the wisdom to make a life choice. So that's something that we can learn from our bodies. So it's following, I suppose, our intuition or our body's wisdom or a feeling that we have inside, and then having the courage to take action, which then leads you maybe to, like you said, a more authentic path.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the other things that we can learn from our body? I mean, we sort of mentioned before about slowing down if we have an injury, but what are some of the other things that our body tells us?
So the thing about the body is that it is a container for all our experiences. And, there's a book called Body Remembers. It remembers everything. It holds all our experiences within it. And so it's a real well of wisdom and knowledge. And I believe that it guides us to our best possible life and our best possible version of ourselves. And in making decisions, when we tune into the heart wisdom and the gut wisdom, for example, I mean, we'll get into that a bit later, but if you tune into your body and notice if it's it's kind of expanded or opening, or if it's contracted or closing, it will not lead you astray if you follow that guidance. And it's, often it's hard to articulate and put into words, but once you experience it, then you've had that experience of listening. So the first step is listening, noticing what are the sensations that are arising in your body. And then the second step is actually following that guidance. And then the third step is putting action behind it. So you can, as we've talked about, you can make life decisions based on what your body tells you. But a lot of it also has to do with self-care, with your physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual self-care. And it's hard for us to always be sort of looking at those aspects when we're in our day-to-day life, and living our lives. But if you're tapping in and tuning into, as I was saying earlier, pain is a huge teacher.
Yeah.
Pain is teaching us, it's telling us something.
Yeah.
And often it's a sensation that is being ignored over time that eventually becomes pain. Because once it's pain, you can't ignore it.
Yeah, totally.
Once it's pain in your neck, for example, you can't ignore it.
And action needs to happen.
And you have to do something about it, whether it's as simple as, all right, my pillow is crap,
Yeah.
I need to change my pillow, or I need to change the way I'm sleeping or the way I'm sitting, or noticing, right, I'm on the computer all the time and my neck is shoved forward. Of course, my poor neck is going to be screaming in pain.
That's right.
So it's bringing, I think, I've just hit on the answer to your question. It's about awareness.
Yeah.
It's about bringing things into your awareness that previously you were not aware of. And awareness means that you can make an informed decision. That's in a nutshell, which is a very big nutshell.
No, I really totally agree with that, because anyone who's listened to any of my other shows knows how passionate I am about self-awareness.
Yes.
And how self-awareness can be in so many different levels and in so many different ways we can become self-aware. Mm-hmm. And I really do believe that the body is one of those vehicles to really help us with self-awareness, because it gives us feedback.
And the really exciting bit for me is that it brings things into our awareness that we were previously not aware of.
Yeah.
So this is all unconscious stuff, right?
Yeah.
We're doing things on autopilot. We're like, not aware of what we're doing. And the body has this ability to go, hey, hello there, look at me,
Yeah.
If you're not listening, it gets louder and louder until you either have, some sort of physical pain, or it gets worse and you have an accident, or you fall over and you hurt yourself in a big way, and then you're forced.
Totally.
You're totally forced to go, right, now I've got to sit with this.
Yeah. And I think that a really simple example, which I think most people would be able to resonate with, is even just the simple sign of feeling tired.
Exactly.
So how many people, I mean, I know I've done it, I'm sure you've done it, and I could say most people feel tired and continue to push themselves.
Coffee,
they don't stop.
Sugar.
That's right. They'll do what they can to get through, to be able to complete the task that they maybe set for themselves, because they want to avoid feeling like maybe a failure, or feeling like they couldn't achieve what they set out to achieve, which then feeds into the failure, or they're not good enough. Mm-hmm. So then they push through barriers that their body is giving them messages to say, you need to actually slow down or have a rest or do some self-care. They're not doing that. They're pushing through. Sometimes it's not even for their own worry about imperfection, but they're trying to people please their boss or their team, or fear that they're going to lose their job, or whatever the reason might be, and they go and go and go and go, and then the screaming is the burnout, that complete overwhelm burnout, and then the burnout then leads to the anxiety, the depression, the illness, and all of those other things, which basically the body gives you no choice but to listen.
Yes.
So that's just an example which I think most people could probably relate to, that the body really does show you very early on the signs.
And it's as simple as that. I mean, the other side of that coin is, interesting you should use this example, because one of the things I've done in recent times to sort of take my self-care to the next level is to listen to that particular impulse for rest and tiredness. And so I've actually given myself permission in the last year to rest at any time of the day or night that my body is telling me that it needs rest. So I've become like the napping queen. But what I'm noticing is like, oh my God, my well-being has shot up. Yeah. What I'm able to offer in my work and my services has gone through the roof.
Yep.
Why? Because there's this one impulse that my body was telling me that I'm tired, I have low energy. And instead of ignoring that, I've chosen to listen to it and stop and rest and nap. And it's changed my life.
That's right. You've had greater impact.
Oh my God.
Greater outcomes with greater impact.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone's always telling me, oh my God, Anjali, you do so many things. And, when you were reading my bio, I was kind of going, oh my God, are you serious? That sounds like a lot. But, again, it comes back to being guided by the body.
Yep.
And by being able to not just listen, but to act on and make real life choices based on what your body is telling you.
Yeah. And I love the example you gave before about the expanded state or the contracted state, because I think that that's a really simple thing that anybody can tune into with themselves. They don't have to go on this deep level and what is the message my body is telling me and I need to get spiritual about it.
No.
It's really just a practical body positioning, body language, body posture to be able to read and gain feedback about any particular situation. So am I being true to myself? Well, are you excited, meaning and passionate, and your body is open and your heart is open, and you makes you feel wonderful? Or as you're saying it, are you contracted, your heart is closed, your shoulders are scooped over, and your posture is bad? I mean,
exactly.
The answer is in your body.
Absolutely. And it's a yes or no.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and not swear, but basically if it's not an F yes, it's an F no.
Yeah.
That's been a motto I've been trying to live by for the last few years.
And it is hard, and that is hard sometimes for someone being unpracticed to really notice that. But just that simple knowing what your body is doing in its shape is a quick, easy guide into getting an idea of where you're at. And then as you become more practiced, there's obviously deeper ways of becoming more body aware.
Yeah. But it just boils down to that. It's either a yes or a no.
Yeah.
And it's taking the time to pause and check in. Like if you're thinking about doing something or going somewhere and you're not sure about it, as you're thinking about it, notice what's happening in your body. Yeah. Is it feeling a yes? Even if it's not a no, but it's not a yes, if you know what I mean. So a yes is a full-fledged yes. Mm-hmm. But if it's kind of like I don't know, then it's probably a no.
Yeah.
And or it's probably okay. Let's wait a while and see if that answer changes in some time.
Yeah, great advice. So these are different things that people can tune into with their bodies to become more self-aware. So they're things that in everyday life, whatever they're doing, they're just things that they can notice, to listen to the whispers, to listen to the way their body is presenting itself, etc. But what are some of the more active things people can do to become more action-orientated, or active things people can do to really get into their bodies?
Look, I believe movement is medicine. And you may have, your listeners may have heard that before as well. But basically, you need to move your body.
Yeah.
In whatever way that your body is asking to be moved. And the challenge, of course, is that people are already disembodied and disconnected from their bodies. And so they need to find their way back.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know what the answer is. Only you and your body knows what your answer is. And I really encourage people to explore that for themselves.
Yeah.
Go on a bit of an adventure with your body. Try out what's out there. There's so many different, we call them directive and non-directive approaches. So directive might be a more structured class, or going to the gym and working with a personal trainer, or whatever it is. You need to move your body to be in your body.
Yep.
If you're sitting still and not moving your body on a regular basis, it probably means that you're not in your body, because your body naturally is designed to move. And then the non-directive approaches, there's all sorts of things like 5 rhythms and, ecstatic dance. And I mean, in my experience, what I found is that like ecstatic dance is level 10. Just saying the word dance brings up so much fear and doubt and, self-image issues and body image issues. And that's actually why I became a dance therapist, because when I was teaching dance, I just found everyone's issues around movement would be triggered just by saying the word dance or being in a dance class. So I think at the end of the day, it's about, again, coming back to listening to your body and trying out different things and finding what works for you. See what works for you. And it might not be something as sort of free-flowing as 5 rhythms, or there's something called open floor, there's dancing freedom, there's all these different approaches. It might just be going to your local community center and doing a dance class.
Yeah, I mean, Zumba has become like 30,000 or some, I don't even know what the stat is, but across Australia,
Absolutely.
I think. Like, it's just crazy.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
There's, there's all these different multicultural dances. I mean, of course, Bollywood dance, which is the one I do. But I also, I teach African dance and hip-hop and Latin dances, and we spoke a little bit about your experience in Latin America and how sort of embodied people were and how free they were with their bodies.
Totally.
So see where the juice is, see what gets you excited and do that. Like maybe it's pole dancing, or they've got aerial freaking,
So let's move on to dance in a second. But I think one example that I'd like to give the listeners is something that isn't dance orientated for movement and really getting into your body. And it's something that I need to get back into, but I really practiced it a lot for quite a period of time, and it gave me so much clarity and so much calmness and really helped with integration. And that was something I termed, and I gave to a lot of clients as well, something called a stroll for the senses and the soul.
Oh, nice.
And so what I would do, and I would seriously do it for 20 minutes, no more. Or sometimes more, but generally it really doesn't take more than 20 minutes. And I would leave the door. It wouldn't have to go anywhere. I would just leave wherever I was at, and I would just walk. And with no particular route in mind, I just walked. And I let my body decide when it turned left, when it turned right, if I went into the park. And I engaged all of my senses. So I made sure that I was smelling whatever was in the air, depending on what season, what smelt, but or what was around and what neighbourhood I was in. I made sure that I was listening to the sounds, that I was looking at the street signs, at the cars, whatever was around me, I was looking. I was tasting how did it taste in my mouth at that particular time. So I was engaging all of my senses, and they were the times that I genuinely got universal messages or clarity came about things. And what I'd often do as well is, prior to going for the walk, I'd set a little bit of an intention. So if there was something that I was having trouble with making a decision about, I might set an intention to do with that, and then I would just let go of the intention completely and then walk and really get into engage the senses.
Yes.
And generally I would have clarity on that intention at the end.
Absolutely.
And so many other benefits. So that was something that I've done and I've had clients do that, and the feedback about that activity has been really positive. And that's someone that doesn't have to have any type of skills to be able to do. So, yes, I just wanted to share that example as well.
That's beautiful. I mean, essentially, that's mindfulness, and this is why I teach mindfulness, right? Because you can do anything mindfully. You can be in your kitchen cooking and do that mindfully, paying attention to the sights, to the smells, to the sounds, because your senses bring you into your body.
Yeah, and I did a whole episode on that a few episodes ago about mindfulness and what it actually means. And we gave some of those examples then as well. So I do now want to go into talk about dance more specifically, which we've sort of started on already, and looking at how many different options there are, and how dance really is just part of life in so many cultures, like the example you just gave of the discussion we had about my recent trip to Brazil and how I was like, oh my God, everybody is just so in their bodies and dance is such a part of life, and it really brings a feeling of aliveness in the place, like with all the music and dance. And it's not specific. It doesn't discriminate against age, gender, class. It was really across the board. And it was so beautiful to see. And I don't know, I felt like having dance ingrained in a culture really impacted the overall well-being of the people in the place. And even in a place like Brazil where there is so much poverty. So the actual illness or well-being of a lot of people probably isn't as high as places in some ways that we think about well-being as places like Australia, where there is less poverty, obviously, than places like that. However, the overall feeling of well-being in the joy was just felt like it just had such a greater impact on social interaction.
Yes.
In the street, amongst strangers, and connection. People felt more connected to themselves and to others and their environment.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about
look, human beings have been dancing since the beginning of time. We have danced for many different reasons, to connect as a community, to connect with nature, to connect with ourselves. And what you've just described is, the outcome of cultures that are continuing to dance. I still wonder whether, those the dancing cultures are actually listening to the wisdom of the body on a personal level. That's the bit that we've just finished talking about. But dance is kind of, its own domain. And personally for me, I don't function well without dance in my life. So I totally resonate with everything that you've just said about, the aliveness of being and the sense of connection and joy.
Yeah.
A lot of the work that I do and at the core of all the dance work I do is joyful experience. And being someone who has in many instances been forced to dance because it's what I do for a living, right? So regardless of what state I was in, I've had to dance. And let me tell you, it's been such a huge, it's had such a huge impact on me to know that even in the midst of a dark night of the soul, or in the midst of the darkest, heaviest, most depressing experiences that I've had in my life, I've been able to dance and experience joy in the midst of that.
Yeah.
I get goosebumps thinking about it.
Yeah, because, so the polarity really pulls you.
I really don't know how people function without it. I don't know if I would have survived. And I've said this a number of times. I've said, dance has saved my life. And I truly believe that what you get out of dance, you can't get out of anything else. And cultures that dance are in some ways more connected. And I think also it'd be interesting to notice, whether cultures that dance are actually group cultures, because I think they are. So group cultures tend to connect. And one of the ways they do is through dance.
Yeah, totally.
And it does have an impact on well-being. And you do have, I think it's the belonging that is the big piece that is affected by dancing together. You have a sense of belonging instantly. Even though I don't live in India anymore, when I go back, there's an instant sense of belonging and an instant sense of being embraced by the people. And so, that's kind of my take on that.
And I've had a personal experience with that as well. So post my divorce, I really... Although, I've always really liked dance all my life, I've never really done it majorly formally, except for in school productions and things like that. But post-divorce, I started attending more dance sessions and dance practices. And I would say it really, I wouldn't say it saved my life. I wasn't, in a life-threatening situation, but it definitely aided my healing. And it brought and it just an injection of fun back into my life, of fitness into my life and community, like you said.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
it really was a savior in so many ways.
Absolutely.
And
yes.
And then I continued, to really do that, and it became ingrained as part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it, and both music and dance are now really quite a big part of my life.
Yeah, and it just is so enriching. It opens your life up to more joyful experience, and the higher the highs you can experience, the more you can balance the lows out.
Yeah.
And vice versa. If you're able to sort of really face your inner demons and your darker, heavier experiences, it allows you to touch upon, higher states of bliss and joy. And for me, actually, I meant that literally as well as metaphorically, that dance has saved my life, because I have been, in the past, or rather when I was growing up, I was actually quite suicidal, and I've had periods in my life where I've questioned, what's the point of living?
Yeah.
And dance has always been part of the answer to that, and that it's given me a reason to get up in the morning and get out of bed and be excited and joyful, even in the midst of some really challenging life situations, but also global situations. Like, we live on a planet right now that's pretty, it's a challenging place to be. And I think we need to find joy to counterbalance
I totally
some of the
agree.
Darkness in the world,
Yeah, and a lot of the listeners would know that that's one of my big missions, is about helping people, well, firstly be aligned to their own values and, and make choices through their own integrity, but also for the outcome of feeling joyful.
Yes.
So making these self-loving choices,
yes.
which include being aligned,
yes.
for the outcome.
And it's not
feeling,
selfish.
Yeah, joyful. Because the ripple effect of when you feel joy, everyone would say that their relationships are better, not just with their intimate partners, but their families or their friends, with themselves. You just feel better. Everything flows when you're feeling joy.
Well, this is the thing. Where I find that people don't prioritize joy. Like, they'll have, a long list of things to do on a daily or weekly or monthly basis. But where's the joy, right? Where is the joyful experience? And when you see the world through a holistic lens, you recognize that joy has an impact on your physical, emotional, psychological, mental health, your spiritual well-being, all of it.
Totally.
Right? It
totally
changes, all of that has a positive impact on all your levels of well-being.
Yeah, and I think that dance really works on all those levels as well.
Exactly.
So, it's a really good activity to be able to have those benefits on a physical level, on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, on a cognitive level.
Absolutely.
To then also bring about joy.
Absolutely.
And have the ripple effect.
Yeah, it's a vehicle. It's a way. It's a path that leads to joyful experience, and it's accessible to anyone at any time. You don't even need music, right?
But it does look pretty silly.
I know, but I've had that experience a few times already. Sort of dancing away.
Yeah. So, if we do talk a little bit about some of those benefits, I mean, the physical ones are quite obvious, the great for your cardiovascular health, good for your muscle strength, your endurance, your bone health, your agility, it aids weight loss. All of those things I think most people understand that generally exercise will do that. Dance is a form of exercise. So that'll be the benefit. But I really love the emotional benefits as well. Because I think, like you said earlier, you noticed when you started doing classes how much body confidence issues and body image issues were coming up for people. And I think that it's funny because I think that those things are triggered, which can actually be a roadblock for people to start dance.
Yes.
But then when they start dance, though, dance can actually be be the therapy or the medicine that they need to actually improve their body confidence and their body self-image.
Yes.
So it's kind of like one of those really difficult things, because we know how much it can help with that, but if you're really self-conscious, it's very difficult to start.
Absolutely. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. But, the thing is, if you have this conversation with anyone, I don't think anyone will deny the benefits of dance. I don't think there's a single person who would go, oh, no, it's no good for you.
That's right.
Right? But what's really cool is, one of the jobs that I'm doing right now is there's a school that's doing a pilot program where they are introducing dance for well-being in their school. So Brilliant. There's no performance outcome. There's no competition or anything like that. It's for every year level. They're calling it dance jams. But what was really cool is, like, I'm in week 3 now, and they've already, the assistant principal who is running this program has already come back to us and said, we are having no fights on the day that you're in doing the dance jams.
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
They don't fight. And this is a school with a lot of diversity. Lots of traumatized kids from, refugee backgrounds, a variety of different issues like homelessness and, domestic violence. And so it's a pretty, full-on school in terms of the other schools that I've been in that are like that have a real problem with bullying and fights, and kids are not self-regulated, where they're just completely all over the place. They're acting out. And so it is so cool to see schools implementing something like this. It's a pilot program, and they're already talking about we'll definitely do it next year, because already in 3 weeks they've seen the benefits. We're talking about the well-being and emotional and psychological, social, relational benefits. Here you go. Here's a concrete example of just introducing, and I'm doing multicultural dances there. So it is a bit structured, but I also leave a bit of room for freestyle improvisation and for them to come up with their own moves. And, for me, it's about sort of tuning in, because, as you know, I'm a dance therapist as well as a dance teacher. So sort of tuning into what the group needs. And it's just amazing I'm blown away, to be honest, that we've had such immediate results where immediately they're telling us, there's an improvement in the kids' social skills, even though we're not teaching them social skills. It's like a side effect of dance, right? So, I don't want to ramble on about it because I can, but it's really...
So it's just, the ripple effect is just being seen, and hopefully something like this, which is a pilot program for this particular school, hopefully the study can be taken as an example, this case study, to other schools or other environments, so that more people benefit from this ripple effect. Because I think especially amongst kids, when there are behavioural issues or there is traumatisation, or, they're coming from certain family situations, they're not really probably either age-wise or ability to sit wise to have sort of cognitive therapy.
No, they're not cognitively developed enough to do that as yet.
So something like dance, what an amazing medium to be able to just get rid of all of the stigma, like, no one has, and it's for everyone, so it's not like just people...
No, it's not just for the problem kids.
That's
it's
right.
It's sort of like right across the board.
And to see the results is just, it's fantastic. I can't even have the proper words to articulate it, because I'm so happy to hear it, hear these outcomes.
Absolutely. I mean, and the thing is, it's also about normalizing dance in a culture that is not a dancing culture. Yeah. So Australian culture is not, traditionally, yes, the Aboriginals do dance a lot, and they do have lots of different ways in which they move their bodies, but that's not necessarily adapted by the Australian culture, system in general. And so it's introducing kids to dance and movement at an early age. But, I mean, unfortunately, you see self-consciousness kicking in for younger and younger students. It used to be at the teen, like when they're going through puberty and they're going from around years 6 to 8.
Yeah.
From around that 12, 13 year mark, they start to get self-conscious. But now you're seeing it for younger and younger kids. But I believe the same thing for adults. That's why I run classes for adults. I believe it's never too late to get past your self-doubts about having 2 left feet and being uncoordinated, or having, believed some teacher or somebody who commented on how you're not good at dancing. It's never too late to get beyond that, to get into your body and to reap the benefits, physical, emotional, psychological benefits of dance.
Yeah.
Just any age, any shape, any size, you will. I don't even need to explain the benefits. You will see it in your own life as soon as you start moving.
Totally. And I think that without going into it in detail, there is enough evidence to show now that the rates of anxiety and depression and, and stress within our culture and across the globe is just increasing more and more and more, to the point that the governments are starting to hear.
Yes.
And, it's a problem. And if we can have ways to combat some of these issues, which aren't necessarily taking them on a medical pathway, and looking at alternative ways first, and it isn't necessarily structured exercise either.
Yes.
This is, it's brilliant.
Yes.
It's brilliant. And I mean, you hear so many stories about countries where there's poverty, and they've started, they really get the street kids to come together in a group and start like hip hop groups or whatever it is. I mean, hip hop is a culture that started in the streets from street kids.
Absolutely.
And it saved them. It really saved them. So there's just so many examples where dance really has so many benefits for well-being. And we haven't even talked across so many other areas like aged care, like disability care.
Yes.
I mean,
trauma.
Yeah,
there's
there is so many areas where
so much
there is so much benefit
absolutely
for well-being in so many different groups of people across different ages, across different abilities, and it is just so inclusive and so accessible.
I mean, the great thing is that the research is catching up.
Yeah.
Like for example, the chance of getting dementia is reduced by something like 90% if you're dancing.
And there's huge studies done on that. I think even in the out of New York, in one of the medical centers, the Albert Einstein Medical Center, I think did a study on that.
Absolutely. And also in trauma now. So that's another area I work a lot in the US, for example. They have right across the board recognized you cannot treat trauma without addressing the body, without including the body and connecting with the body as part of the treatment of trauma.
Yeah.
And part of the healing comes from reconnecting, because one of the things that happens when you're traumatized is the first coping mechanism is you disconnect from the body.
Yeah.
So this is the problem. We were talking about the body being a double-edged sword and dance being a double-edged sword. The very thing that stops you from dancing is what is healed when you dance.
Yeah.
And it's the same with trauma, is that the very thing that is holding your traumatic experiences, which is your body, is actually the thing that will heal, that will help you heal through your traumatic experiences by reconnecting with the body, So it's a really exciting time in my field and in the field of all body-oriented therapies, because I think finally it's starting to get the importance and the value, and it's coming back into sort of mainstream approaches, and we're recognizing we need to include the body, we need to value body-oriented experiences, we need to sometimes when I'm working with clients, there's no reason or purpose to connecting with the body. The purpose is actually connecting with the body.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
Why are we doing this? We're doing this just to do it.
And when you connect with the body, there's just outcomes that will happen.
That is the outcome. Yeah. Exactly right.
That's right.
So it might just be about, okay, notice what's happening there. Notice that sensation is changing to something else. Follow that experience to its end. But then the mind wants to go, but what does that mean?
Yeah.
And why is that? And this is the thing, right?
Yeah.
We got to train the monkey mind and not let the monkey mind be the master of us. We have to be the master of the monkey mind, and bringing the body back into our conscious awareness brings back some of that balance, which automatically negates things like depression and anxiety. And, there's that, I think it's a Chinese proverb, if you are in the future, you are anxious, and if you're in the past, you're depressed. But if you're in this present moment, you're living your best life, or something like that.
Okay.
It's some sort of Chinese proverb that basically is putting a spotlight on this idea of being in the present moment and not allowing your mind, because your body can't go into the future, right? Your body is only right here, right now. That's why we focus on breathing, because breathing is only ever happening in this present moment, right? It's not happening in the past. It's not happening in the future. So yeah, it's all about sort of bringing back the balance and bringing the body back into your awareness and into your life experience has an immense impact and so many benefits on all these other levels of experience.
Brilliant. There's so much we've talked about, right from body wisdom through to being in our bodies, being able to connect with our bodies, having a mind and body connection so that we can make better decisions.
Yes.
Ways that we can connect. What the benefits are. Talked about dance, why it's important. We could talk forever about all the different benefits, but we talked about the different benefits of emotional and physical and spiritual and cognitive. We looked at how many different settings and dance is actually being put across in, how it's becoming more popular. But I think that a really good thing to end on would be to encourage you as a listener to know that besides all of these benefits that you know, because you know them already, we might have articulated them for you, but you know how good it is for you, whether it's dance, other movement. You know that it's really important to have the body-mind connection, but yet it isn't always possible for us to do all these things. So my takeaway, my biggest takeaway, I think, from this episode could be is practice. Just practice. You're not expected to just be a star at anything you do. It doesn't matter if it's a movement practice, an academic practice, or anything. It doesn't matter. It's just about practicing. You've got a level you start at and you slowly improve.
Absolutely.
And the only way to improve is to practice.
Yes.
And that includes good breathing, and being mindful and practicing. So making that choice.
It's another really good way of looking at it is when you use the word practice, practice is actually rewiring your brain.
Yes.
That's why we need to practice.
Which is a whole nother conversation.
It's a whole other conversation, but that's what you're doing. So
totally.
why do we say practice? Because we have, for generations, not valued the body and not had a relationship with our bodies. And so for me, I guess the note I want to end on is make friends with your body.
Yeah, great advice.
Have a relationship with your body. If you're in relationship with your body, would that if your body was a person, it would need some attention.
Yes.
It would need to be taken out and taken out for a night out or for a day out or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
So treat your body like a love interest and someone that you're wanting to, develop a relationship with. And I think you will never go wrong if you commit to having a lifelong relationship with your body.
Brilliant advice. Thank you. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope that you've gained some really valuable information and inspiration from this conversation that we've had. If people want to know more about your work and your classes that you currently offer for adults and even the work that you do for kids, how would they find you?
The best place would be to go to my website. My business name is Embracing Spirit, so it's www.embracingspirit.net.
Brilliant. And I'll put all of that information on the show notes anyway. So thank you so much, Anjali, for coming in and having this conversation with me. It's been such a pleasure. And I think I'm going to have to go and dance tonight.
Yes, most definitely. If that's a result of this conversation, my day is made.
And then mine will be too. So
awesome.
I'm Lisa Entwistle, your host and founder of Wealthy Living. And if you want to find out any more about my services, you can connect with me online or go to my website at www.wealthyliving.com.au. So that's WELLTHY living.com.au. So I'm an integrative life, clarity and wellbeing coach. I do workplace wellness consulting, event facilitation and hosting. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a comment. If you're listening on iTunes or on your podcast app on your phones, please rate the show and share with your network. So thank you very much and have a fabulous afternoon.